Now I've got a kneaded eraser, which is like a kind of piece of putty almost, and it's great for just lightening up lines. So I'm just going to move over my guidelines on the side, get rid of those. And it takes the drawing down quite a bit without smearing it, so they're fun to play with too. So they're called kneaded erasers, K-N-E-A-D-E-D. So I'm bringing all this down, and because I don't want this much pencil work to be showing through my watercolor, because I'm going to be using like a light wash. So when I actually work with the brush, I'll be drawing with the brush. Okay, some of those lines are still pretty dark, but I think I can work with those. Okay. Now it looks like we're ready to throw on some wash. I brought down the exposure a little so you can see the drawing a little bit better. And it's really important when you're working with watercolors to invest in good quality brushes. Brushes are so important when you're using watercolor. So don't get cheap brushes. That's one thing that's really important. The other is to make sure you have plenty of fresh water in front to these little containers here. And make sure that the water is clean, because otherwise your colors will get muddy. So, and sometimes muddiness is not too bad. You don't want your colors too hot, depending on, of course, what kind of what you're looking for, what kind of style. I want to get a nice light pink for Iggy, and I think I'm going to need to clear that off. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to get a nice, it's a little too muddy. And for a pink, you're not going to want this other kind of muddy color with it, because pink's going to be very light. And light bunny is actually a light blue too, so both of these I'm going to have probably a lot of water mixed in. So I want to have enough kind of pigment that I can, with water, that I can kind of cover the whole surface of the character that I'm working on. Alright, I think that might work well. Okay. And I'm just gonna kind of go over where I want it to be. I think it's gonna work well. I like this paper. It's got a nice tooth to it that allows the paint to settle into the crevices and flow nicely. So I'm not just tracing lines now, I'm actually redrawing, and I'm focusing on shapes right now. So that is the Iggy shape. So now I can just bring this elbow here in and let that leg flow from there. And I'm going to work fairly fast because I don't want the paint to dry. Because if the paint dries, then I'll have these little lines between where the old paint was wet or dry, and the new paint, the wet paint, comes in. So if I keep working with it, I can kind of keep that wetness going and get the kind of shapes and colors I want. Okay. So let's do his ears. Okay. See, here's I'm getting that problem, and there are ways to deal with that. Which is then to go over the color. The problem is that you don't want to go over it too many times because your dark colors will get darker each time. But you can kind of rework the wetness. Watercolor is a tricky medium. You need to work quickly and decisively. There's no room for fooling around and saying, "Oh, let me try this," or, you know. It's not like oils where you can go over it as many times as you want. Okay, so that's a nice shape for Iggy's body. And I think what I'm going to do is take a tissue and lift out some of that color so it's not as bright. And I'll use it to get some, try and get some light and dark into the shapes. I want to make sure that I'm not dropping paint down on the white of the paper. I'm just using like a sponge. There we go. Alright. So now let Iggy dry there. And the colors that I know I want to use, I should have probably done a color guide for, but I know that I want Iggy and Bunny to be his light blue and Iggy to be the kind of pink. So I'm just going to start with them. And in this case I want to have Bunny's eyes really bugging out. And it's got a fairly large, fairly round head. And again, like I talked about with the ears, keeping within that there. Yeah, I like the way that turned out. Okay. I feel like I'm doing one of those cooking shows. And now we'll put it in the oven for 35 minutes. And alright, now I'm starting to get a little of that spontaneity that watercolor is wonderful for. Bunny's feet. Alright. Let's get his nose there a little bit. Okay. I'm going to wash out the brush as well. And what I think I will do is try just a little just play with the colors that I want to use. So I know Bunny is this light blue. I'm just going to be reading a book in that chair. And I know Iggy, oops, is this red shape here. After a while you really learn to be able to draw with a brush. It's actually pretty fun in itself. So now I want to figure out, I've got 3 fireballs, the beanbag chair that Iggy has, and the ball that beanbag chair Bunny has, and the ball that Iggy is on. So let me just indicate those very loosely and lightly. Okay, and then I'll start figuring out what kind of color scheme I want. Right now it's already suggesting maybe to go with purples. And this blue and red make purple, so then we're using the kind of purple side of the color wheel, the blue and the red, so we're getting a triad color scheme there. And then maybe the opposite of that would be the yellow-orange, which might be great for the fire. Okay, that looks like a kind of a red-orange here. So I'll take some of that and some of the yellow. Alright, nice orange and the yellow. And if these are yellow and fire, and let's bring Iggy's ball into a nice deep purple. And that